Electrocardiogram (ECG) or EKG. ECG is the record of electrical activities happening in the heart valve, which causes pumping action of the heart by contraction of myocardium. ECG is not the ultimate tool to diagnose the disease of the patient, but ECG can contribute for the confirmation of diagnosis by considering the other signs and symptoms. Here are the 10 steps for ECG interpretation to make it very quick and easy. And if we follow these steps, it will be easy to understand how to interpret the ECG very effectively. These steps include the heart rate, the P wave and its nature, the PR interval, Q wave, QRS complex, QT interval, ST segment, T wave, axis and the rhythm. Two sample ECGs are given here. The first sample is normal in all leads, and the second sample there are differences. Abnormalities can be seen, especially in lead 2, lead 3, AVF and also AVL, AVR. Everywhere you can see ST segment abnormalities. ST segment is elevated in lead 2, lead 3 and AVF. This elevated ST segment in these specified leads are telling you acute myocardial infarction of inferior wall. So this is a case of inferior wall myocardial infarction. At the end of this session, you will be able to diagnose such acute condition. Before going to the 10 steps of ECG interpretation, let us have a base on the ECG. What electrical activity is happening in the heart? And this basic knowledge is required, that is essential to make the learning of ECG interpretation very easy and effective. So here in this picture, these pictures are telling you the electrical events which are happening initially in the atria, further in the ventricles. We know the conducting system of the heart that consists of SA node, AV node, bundle of His. In between SA node and AV node we have the internodal fibers, then bundle of His. Further we have the right bundle branch, left bundle branch. Each bundle branches are differentiating into Purkinje fibers. So these components consist of the conducting system. What is its function? To initiate the action potential and further the spread of this action potential throughout the heart wall, so that the myocardium can pump as a functional syncytium. So here in this picture we have the ECG waves also, P wave, Q, R, S waves. These three are consisting the QRS complex. So P wave, Q, R, S complex, then T wave. So these two pictures we can compare. The P wave is telling you the electrical activities which are happening in the atria. So a complete P wave is formed here. That means complete depolarization of the atria happened. Then followed by QRS complex. So here we have the QRS complex. That means the ventricular depolarization also happened. Finally the T wave, that is telling you the repolarization of the ventricles. These pictures are helping you to tell what are the waves present in the ECG and how these waves can be correlated with the electrical activities which are happening in the heart. The first wave is the P wave. The P wave is explaining you the atrial depolarization is completely happened. And you have the QRS complex, that is telling you the ventricular depolarization. Okay, so in QRS complex you have three waves. Q wave which is negative, a tall R wave which is positive, and an S wave which is again negative. Why Q wave is negative? Q wave is telling you the initial depolarization of the ventricle at the area of the interventricular septum. Why is this negative? Because this action potential is passing away from the net vector, positive electrodes. That is why, in opposite direction. That's why this is negative. But if action potential is passing towards the positive electrode, that will be positive. So Q wave means from the endocardium towards upwards. That's why that is negative in the ECG. Again you have a tall R wave. This is positive because the action potential is spreading towards the positive vector. Okay, that's why you will get a tall R wave. So this is telling you again the major event which is happening at the depolarization of ventricles. So that's why we have a tall R wave, because the electrical action potential is passing towards the positive electrode. Again you have a negative S wave here. That is the terminal depolarization of the ventricles, because from the epicardium area again the action potential is passing towards the endocardium. That's why this action is this spreading is in opposite direction. That's why we have S wave as -1. Finally, the repolarization of the ventricle, that is denoted by T wave. The T wave is positive because from the point of depolarization, at the end of depolarization, from the same point only repolarization starts. From this endocardium towards this epicardium, this is the direction of repolarization. So this direction is towards the positive electrode. That is why we are getting a positive wave. So these are the positive waves like P wave, R wave and T wave. We have two negative waves. One is Q wave and another is S wave. Next essential knowledge in order to have easy ECG interpretation is about the leads. So we are getting the sample of 12 lead ECGs mostly. And these 12 leads, there are unipolar leads and bipolar leads. Each leads are telling you the electrical events happen at particular part of the heart. So if you find out any abnormality at particular leads, that is telling you that part of the heart is in trouble. So the leads can be classified into unipolar leads and bipolar leads. And these unipolar leads, again you have limb leads and chest leads. Limb leads are AVR, AVL and AVF. So we got 3 leads here. And unipolar chest leads are from V1 to V6, 6 in number. Okay, V1 to V6. Remember this we have to note down. V1 and V2, vector leads 1 and vector leads 2. These two leads are monitoring the electrical events of interventricular septum. And V3 and V4, these two leads are monitoring the electrical events happen at the anterior wall of the heart. And you have V5 and V6. These two chest leads are monitoring the electrical events happen in the lateral wall of the heart. And the bipolar leads you have limb leads 1, 2 and 3. Each leads you can consider as cameras at different direction of the heart. For an example, lead 2, lead 3 and AVF. These are the cameras which are monitoring the heart from below. So these leads are telling you the electrical events happening at the inferior aspect of the heart. So remember, so these 3 leads are telling you the inferior aspect. So any abnormality in the ECG paper, these 3 leads are showing you abnormality means you have to think of something wrong with the inferior wall. Similarly, you have the anterior wall, anteroseptal. So that already in previous slide we were explaining. That means from V1 to V4. V1 and V2 is telling you the septum, V3 and V4 is telling you the anterior wall. So mostly the abnormalities can be anteroseptal. Okay. And the lateral wall of the heart can be monitored by the leads like lead 1, AVL and again 2 chest leads like V5 and V6. So these leads are abnormal means you have to think something wrong with the lateral wall of the heart. In ECG, along the x-axis, we can consider the time duration, the duration of each waves, each intervals and each segments. And in y-axis, we can consider the height of each waves or the amplitude. And here we can see large squares are there and also small squares are there. A single large square consists of 5 small squares horizontally and 5 small squares vertically. So these 5 small squares horizontally is telling you the duration and 5 small squares vertically along the y-axis telling you the amplitude. And remember, one small square will be 1 millimeter in measurement. And if you consider that in x-axis, that is the duration, that is denoting 0.04 seconds, or you can consider 40 millisecond. So 2 small squares are 80 milliseconds, 3 means 120, 4 means 160 and 5 small squares are telling you 200 millisecond. So remember, similarly 5 large squares are telling you that is denoting 1 second duration. You can see here, 5 large squares are 1 second duration. And if you consider the y-axis in amplitude, 1 millimeter is 0.1 millivolt current. That's why 5 small square consist of 0.5 millivolt. So 2 large squares are equal to 1 millivolt and 1 large square is 0.5 millivolt. This is the amplitude in y-axis. Again, we should be very clear that in the ECG, P wave, QRS complex and T wave. P wave is telling you the atrial complex, electrical activities of atrial complex. QRS complex with the T wave, that is telling you the ventricular complex, that include QRS complex, that is ventricular depolarization, and T wave at the end, ventricular repolarization. If you got the theoretical basis of the ECG and electrical activities which are happening in the heart, now let us see what are the 10 easiest steps to interpret the ECG very quickly. So here we are going to learn all these 10 steps. So in the first step, we are learning the heart rate. How to calculate the heart rate by looking at the ECG without palpating this patient. So the heart rate you can check by checking the RR interval. What is this RR interval? The nearby R waves or adjacent R waves we can consider. So this is one R wave here, this is one R wave, and this is another R wave. So you can count the number of large squares in between adjacent R waves. So here the number of large squares are 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 large squares, and you can remember this box or these measurements. So if only one large square is present, means the heart rate will be 300. That means this is one R wave, and again here itself, if you notice, one R wave means in between two R waves you have only one large square. There the heart rate is 300, that is tachycardia. Again, if the R wave is here, means you have two large squares. So if two large squares are, means average heart rate will be around 150. Again 3 means 75, 4 means around 60. So that may not be exactly 60, or very close to the 60 you can consider. This is the heart rate here. Another easiest method to check the heart rate by looking at the ECG is 1500 divided by number of small squares. Okay, so remember, here in between adjacent R waves, count down the number of small squares. In the previous method we were considering the large squares, but here we can consider the small squares. So in this sample the number of small squares are 5, 10, 15, 20 and almost 21. So here the heart rate will be 1500 divided by 21. This will be around 72. So this is a normal heart rate. So here also you can consider total number of small squares divided by 1500. It will be around 70 or 72. So this is the heart rate in this method. And here in this sample you can consider the heart rate by considering the small squares between two successive R waves. And here in between two successive R waves you have around 13 small squares are there. So 13 small squares means 1500 divided by 13, it will be definitely more than 100, it will come around 115. So this is a case of tachycardia. And here in this sample, in between the successive R waves you have around 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, around 35. Okay, you have around 35 small squares. So the heart rate in this sample will be 1500 divided by 35, it will be around 43. Okay, this is a case of bradycardia. And remember, the above mentioned two methods you can do only if there is regular rhythm of the heartbeat. But sometimes you may come across abnormal rhythm of the heart rate. So in case of abnormal rhythm in arrhythmias, what you have to consider is you have to consider the 6-second duration. So in 6 seconds, how many R waves are there, you count down. So this is an example. Here you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. 1 second, second, third, fourth, fifth and sixth second. In this 6-second strip there are 7 R waves. So that's number 7 you multiply with 10. So this will be around 70 beats per minute. And remember, if you notice 5 R waves, that will be 50. If you notice 6, that will be 60. Like that you can consider the heart rate in irregular rhythm. Next step is morphology of the P wave. So we know the P wave is the first wave of the ECG, and this is the first positive wave in the ECG, which is telling you the electrical events which have happened in the atria. So this is why this P wave is called as atrial complex, and its reason is atrial depolarization. And remember, if P wave is normally present in the ECG, means atrial depolarization happened. And if P wave is absent, means we have to know that atrial depolarization did not happen, something wrong happened. So its duration is around 0.1 second. So that will be around 2.5 millimeter. That means 2.5 small squares. That is the normal duration of the P wave. And its amplitude will be around 0.1 millivolt. That means a single small square height. So this is the normal morphology of P wave. And this is the electrical event which is happening. Initial depolarization of the atria, that is initial P wave is formed, and here the depolarization of atria completed. That is why a complete P wave is formed. So this is the morphology and reason for the P wave. And remember, this P wave will be usually negative in AVR. And before learning all other waves, AVR we have to consider. The positive waves in other leads will be negative in AVR. And the negative waves in other leads will be positive in AVR. This we have to remember always. So as usual, P wave will be negative in AVR. To check the P wave nature, characters of the P wave, you can consider lead 2 is the best lead. The P wave morphology you can learn by checking the P wave at lead 2. And here in this lead 2 we got a normal positive P wave. And remember, the P wave will be positive in lead 1, lead 2, AVF, and also in the chest leads like V4, V5 and V6. These leads we can consider to learn the P wave. And the lead 2 is the best one to consider for the P wave. And this is a normal sample of ECG, and as we mentioned, lead 2 we are considering to learn about the P wave. So here we got a normal P wave which is normal in amplitude, that means in height, and also the duration of the P wave is correct, normal. So this is a normal P wave in ECG. Lead 2 we considered. And remember, if you find any abnormality in the P wave, for an example, sometimes you may notice an abnormally tall P wave. Okay, so this can happen in the atrial enlargement. Okay, the amplitude is quite higher. That means the atria got enlarged. So tall P wave will be telling you the atrial hypertrophy. And sometimes you will notice that P wave is absent. This can happen. Or absent or inverted P wave is seen in the sinoatrial block and also in the hyperkalemia. Let me show you some examples. So here, in case of abnormal P waves, two conditions you have to remember: P pulmonale and P mitrale. So in P pulmonale and P mitrale, what is happening exactly? So P pulmonale is telling you that abnormally tall P wave, the amplitude is small. We learned that a single small square, that is the normal amplitude, isn't it? 1 millimeter. But here it is exceeded. You got a peaked P wave. So this will be a case of P pulmonale. And remember, this P pulmonale can happen in the lung pathology, especially pulmonary conditions, and also fibrosis, and sometimes COPD. So these are the conditions where pulmonary hypertension can be there, and that will reflect in the ECG in the form of P pulmonale. And you know P mitrale, so this can happen especially in the mitral valve stenosis. Okay, let me show you the sample ECG. So here, this is the picture to explain you what happened in mitral stenosis. The accumulation of blood is there in the left atrium and left atrial enlargement happened. So in the left atrial enlargement you can note down P mitrale, and in right atrial enlargement you got P pulmonale. And in P mitrale, in the ECG you may get an M pattern of the P wave. Here it was tall and peaked, but here we got tall and M pattern we got. So you can remember M mitrale, mitral valve. That M you can remember. I have a sample ECG. In this sample ECG, you can check for the P wave as I mentioned in the lead 2. In the lead 2, you note down that there is M pattern of the P wave. This is a case of P mitrale. And this is a sample ECG just to show you a peaked P wave. This is the lead 2, and here you got the peaked or tall P wave. This is a case of P pulmonale. This is another sample ECG. Again here in the lead 2 you consider to check the morphology of the P wave. Here also you have the P mitrale, that is that M pattern of the P wave you note down. Remember, if P wave is absent, that is telling you that sinoatrial block happened. That means the electrical event from the SA node did not spread through the atria to the AV node. So there may not be any P wave. Next step is checking the PR interval. The PR interval is the interval between the onset of P wave and the onset of Q wave. Normally this will be less than 200 millisecond. Okay, and if it is prolonged, if it is exceeded more than 200 millisecond, that is telling you the action potential did not spread from the atria towards the ventricle. It is taking time. So you can note down that can be AV block, AV nodal delay, and that can happen even in the bradycardia. So this is the prolonged PR interval, and it can get shortened, especially in the tachycardia, and also a condition called as WPW syndrome. This is a sample ECG. So here, if you consider the PR interval, that is from the beginning of P wave till the beginning of Q wave, this is the PR interval. This seems to be prolonged. Usually that should be 200 millisecond. That means one large square. But it is more than that. Okay, that means delayed. So this can be first degree heart block, first degree AV block. Next step is to check the Q wave. What is happening at the formation of Q wave? So the Q wave is a negative wave, that is telling you the initial depolarization of the ventricles. And the normal amplitude of the Q wave can be 0.1 to 0.4 millivolt. Remember, that is negative, downwards. And this is a negative wave. The reason already we have specified earlier why Q wave is a negative wave. Remember, Q wave you have to consider in your clinical practice, because sometimes a deep Q wave, a deep Q wave you can call as pathologic Q wave. If you notice any deep Q wave in the ECG, that will be telling you this can be a case of fresh or even old myocardial infarction. So old MI you can check by noting down the Q wave. If it is very deeper, then you can consider that can be a case of possibilities that can be a case of old myocardial infarction. This is the clinical importance of Q wave. And here we have two samples. Number one, this is a normal ECG showing normal Q wave. But if you consider the Q wave in the second sample, especially in the lead 2 and lead 3, in the lead 3 you have a deep Q wave. So this can be because of old myocardial infarction. So next we are learning an important wave complex in the ECG called as QRS complex. So QRS complex is telling you the ventricular depolarization. So that is a combination of three waves. You have Q wave, you have R wave, and you have S wave. We have learned already in detail about the Q wave and its significance. Next we have to learn a positive and negative wave called as the tall R wave and a negative S wave. So QRS complex normal duration you have to consider. You have to check for the duration of the QRS complex. It will be around 80 to 120 millisecond. should be less than 120 millisecond. This is the normal duration of QRS complex. And remember, what will happen, what you have to consider if it is exceeded. By correlating with the clinical condition, you can suspect either bundle branch block or even hyperkalemia. In these conditions, the QRS complex can be widened or prolonged QRS complex if it is exceeding more than 120 millisecond. So remember, Q wave already we learned. The R wave is 1 millivolt in amplitude. So that means two large squares. 0.5 plus 0.5 is equal to 1 millivolt. And S wave should be around 0.4 milliwatt, that is downwards. And remember, this can vary in the chest leads because in chest leads we have transitions. Note down that R waves become gradually larger from V1 to V6. So in V1 there will be very small R wave. Gradually its amplitude or the height will get increased, and in V6 we can see a tall R wave. This is normal. But remember, in case of S wave this is opposite. S wave will become gradually smaller from chest leads, especially from V3 to V6. So in V6 you may get a very small S wave. So this transition you can consider, this changing from V1 to V6, R wave will gradually become taller, and from V1 to V6, S wave is becoming gradually smaller. And there is a transitional point that will be usually V4. In V4, the amplitude of R wave and S wave will be almost equal, but one is positive, one is negative. So why we are worrying about the R wave and S wave? This is quite important. By checking the R wave and S wave, you can see whether there is any ventricular enlargement. You can consider both enlargement of left ventricle, that is left ventricular hypertrophy, and enlargement of right ventricle, that is right ventricular hypertrophy. How to check the ventricular hypertrophy? By considering the ECG changes. Remember, there is an easy formula to remember. SV1 plus RV6, that should be less than 35 millimeter. If this is 35 or more, there you can consider left ventricular hypertrophy. What is this SV1 and RV6? That means S wave in V1 and R wave in V6. Okay. Similarly, in case of right ventricular hypertrophy, there is another formula, RV1 plus SV2, that will be less than 10 millimeter. If it is less than 10 millimeter, we need not worry. But if it is 10 or more, you can consider that can be a case of right ventricular hypertrophy. Right ventricle is enlarged. Here it is very clear. So SV1 plus RV6 you can consider. In case of left ventricular hypertrophy, it will be 35 or more. So let us count. So here it is, SV1 means 5, 10, 15, 20, and it is more than 20, it will come around 22. And similarly RV6, we have 5, 10, 15, 20 and 25. So 25 plus 22, okay, it comes around 47. So it is more than 35. That's why this is a case of left ventricular hypertrophy. Similarly, right ventricular hypertrophy means we have SRV1 plus SV6. Okay, it should be less than 10. So remember, here if you consider RV1, 5 plus 5 is equal to 10. Again we have SV6, 10. Here also you have 5 plus 5 is equal to 10. So 10 plus 10 is equal to 20 millimeter. So here you have RV1 plus SV6 is equal to 20 millimeter here. Remember, it should not exceed 10. If it is more than 10, that is telling you right ventricular hypertrophy. This is how you have to find out ventricular enlargements in case of ECG. Here is another sample ECG. You consider SV1 and RV6. That means S wave in V1 and R wave in V6 leads. So here S wave in V1 plus R wave in V6. This is around 35 millimeter. Earlier we have considered that if it is 35 millimeter, you can say that this is a case of left ventricular hypertrophy. This is another sample. If you consider RV1 and SV6, it will be more than 10 millimeter. So this will be a case of right ventricular hypertrophy. Here the R wave in V1 is around 5, 10, around 12 millimeter. 12 small squares are there. And S wave in V6, if you consider this is the S wave in V6, here you have around 8. So 12 plus 8 is equal to 20 millimeter. So RV1 plus SV6 is around 20. So that is more than 10 millimeter. So you can diagnose or you can suspect that this is a case of right ventricular hypertrophy. When you are learning about the QRS complex, you should never forget about the pre-excitation. What is this pre-excitation? Sometimes anatomically there will be an alternate pathway to conduct the electrical impulses from atria to ventricle. In such cases, normal morphology of the QRS complex may not happen. The commonest example for that pre-excitation you can consider WPW syndrome. In WPW syndrome, there you can notice the delta wave. This is a sloping part at the initiation of this QRS complex. So this delta wave can be because of this pre-excitation or in the WPW syndrome. In this ECG sample, if you consider the AVL, here you got, and also in the lead one you can see this sloping delta wave. This is another sample ECG. Here you could notice the delta wave. This can be because of WPW syndrome. In the sixth step, we are considering the QT interval. The QT interval in the ECG is very important. What is this QT important? The QT interval. The QT interval is the interval between the onset of Q wave and end of T wave. So this is the onset of Q wave and here you have end of T wave. So this interval you can consider as QT interval. Normally this will be around 400 millisecond. But nowadays in ECG we are considering QTC, that is corrected QT interval. So this corrected QT interval, it is normal in male around 450 millisecond you can consider as normal in the male sex, and around 470 millisecond you can consider as normal in females. But what will happen if it is exceeding? That is a prolonged QT interval that can happen in several conditions. For an example, myocardial infarction, hypocalcemia, and also certain drug can induce this prolonged QT. Okay, so in ECG sample the QTC will be exceeded more than this specified range. Next step, we are learning about the ST segment. ST segment is very important in ECG. Remember, the ST segment can tell you whether there are any acute MI conditions or not. So if you check the ST segment in various leads, that will tell you the abnormalities that can happen in leads at the ST segment, especially if there are any acute MI in any wall of the heart. And remember, ST segment is the segment between the end of S wave. So S wave is terminating here and beginning of T wave. So the gap between end of S wave and beginning of T wave, this part you can consider as ST segment. And before going to the ST segment, you should know what is J point. That is very important. J point is the beginning point of ST segment. That means termination of S wave and beginning of ST segment. This point you can call as J point. Why are we worrying about J point? Because if J point is above the baseline or isoelectric line, so isoelectric line is the straight line. You can consider the PR segment or even TP segment as isoelectric line. So if J point is above the level of this isoelectric line, there you can consider this is ST segment elevation. And if the J point is below the isoelectric line, that is ST segment depression. So ST segment elevation can happen in various conditions. For an example, posterior wall myocardial infarction, ST segment can get depressed, and ventricular hypertrophy also. So remember, if ST segment is depressed more than 1 millimeter, okay, that you can consider as ST segment depression. And if ST segment is depressed, elevated more than 2 millimeter, that means if the J point is at the level of 2 small squares, that can be considered as ST elevation in the chest leads. But only one small square or 1 millimeter is elevated in the limb lead also can be considered as abnormal. So this is ST segment elevation, and below ST segment depression. So ST segment elevation can happen again in the myocardial infarction like inferior wall myocardial infarction and anterior wall myocardial infarction. Other than that, left bundle branch block, pericarditis, and also in the atlas, normal physiologically in atlas, this ST segment elevation can happen. And this is the picture to show you what actually the normal ST segment is. This is in the isoelectric line or in the baseline. But in the second one, the J point is above at a higher level than the baseline. This is ST segment elevation, and in the second one, J point is below the level of baseline or isoelectric line. This is a case of ST segment depression. So we learn normal ST segment elevation, ST segment depression. This is a sample ECG. So what we are learning is ST segment. In ST segment, here you can see, if you consider the lead 2, here we got the J point is quite above. This is the isoelectric line. J point is quite above the isoelectric line. So this is ST segment elevation. In lead 3 also we got a higher J point. So this is also a case of ST segment elevation. Similarly, AVF also we have a higher J point. That is also ST segment elevation. So this can be a case of acute myocardial infarction, acute MI. What are the leads showing ST elevation? Lead 2, lead 3 and AVF. Okay, and we have reciprocal ST depression in AVL and also in AVR, V1, V2. Here we have the reciprocal ST segment depression. So you can check for the reciprocal depression in other leads. If you notice the elevation in leads, reciprocal depression you can check in other leads. So that is the significance of ST segment elevation. This is another sample ECG. So you are supposed to check for the ST segments, and you could note down here we have in the V1, V2, V3 and V4 you got marked ST segment elevation. The J point is quite above. So this sample, this can be a case of this one, anteroseptal infarction, acute myocardial infarction, anteroseptal. So far we have learned P wave, QRS complex, and we learned about ST segment, and next we are learning about the T wave. The T wave is a positive wave. Already we learned why T wave is a positive wave. This is denoting the repolarization of the ventricle. This is the final ventricular event. And the normal P wave will be around 200 milliseconds. That means a single large square, 5 small squares. This is the normal duration and its amplitude can be around 3 millivolt, 0.3 millivolt. That means 3 small squares height. And remember, the T wave can be normally positive in lead 1, 2, V5 and V6. And that can be inverted in AVR. And remember, in other leads we need not worry about the morphology of the T wave. That will be variable. That can be positive or negative. And remember, the T wave is very important because sometimes if you notice broad based T wave, that can be a case of myocardial infarction. Okay, and in hypokalemia you can notice sometimes an inverted T wave, and in hyperkalemia there will be a tall T wave. The inverted T wave can be in acute ischemia also, and in hyperkalemia you can note down a tall T wave will be there. But remember, the tall T wave you got in hyperkalemia and also in the myocardial infarction. But this is the picture to show you how to differentiate the peaked or tall T wave in hyperkalemia and in acute ischemic condition. Remember, in hyperkalemia you have a narrow and pointed tapering end. Usually T wave will be more than that of R wave in amplitude. It will be taller than the R wave. And in acute ischemia, again it will be peaked, tall. But remember, there will be a symmetric and the base will be broad. Base may not be narrow like hyperkalemia, base will be broader. And the tip may not be very pointed and sharp like hyperkalemia. So these are the different of peaked T wave in hyperkalemia and ischemia, acute ischemic condition. And this is a sample ECG to show you a narrow based T wave and this and pointed tip. This is a case of hyperkalemia. Next we are considering the cardiac axis. Cardiac axis is very important. Normal cardiac axis is from -90 to +90 degree. This is the normal cardiac axis. But remember, if you consider any left ventricular enlargement or if the conduction is taking much more delay, so this is telling you the axis can deviate into left side. And if you consider the right ventricular enlargement and if it is taking much more time for the conduction, that can be seen as right axis deviation. Okay, so the left axis deviation is usually from -30 towards -90. This is left axis deviation, you can check here. For an example, left ventricular hypertrophy. And right axis deviation you can consider again from +90 degree up to 180 degree. This can be considered as right axis deviation. For an example, in case of right ventricular hypertrophy enlargement. And extreme axis deviation can be there from +180 degree. Okay, this is extreme axis deviation also can be there, that is very rare. So to note down, to check the right axis and left axis deviation in the ECG, it is very easy to remember. So to check down the right and left axis deviation in ECG, you have to consider lead 1 and AVF. Remember, in normal axis, the peaked wave, the tallest wave should be positive in lead 1 and lead AVF. If you suspect left axis deviation or in left axis deviation, the tall wave will be positive in lead 1 and negative in AVF. So these two waves are leaving each other. Okay, one is going upwards, one is going downwards. So these are leaving each other. This is left axis deviation. Similarly, if you consider lead 1 and AVF, the peaked or tall wave is negative in lead 1 and positive in AVF, means these two waves are reaching each other or receiving each other. Okay, one is negative, one is positive. So this is a right axis deviation. So leaves left axis L. reaches right axis R, like that it is, we can remember very easily the axis deviation. So this is a sample to show you. So to determine the axis deviation, I told you what are the leads to be considered: lead 1 and AVF. And even in the lead 3 also you can focus. So remember, lead 1, the tall positive wave. Okay, the tallest wave is positive upright. And in AVF, the tallest wave is negative downwards. So these two waves are leaving each other. One is going upwards, one is going downwards. So remember, this is a case of left axis deviation because these two waves are leaving each other. This is another sample ECG. Here you can consider lead 1 and AVF. The tall wave is negative here in lead 1 and the tall wave is positive here in AVF. So these two waves are reaching each other. So this is a case of right axis deviation. One is negative, one is positive. This is a case of right axis deviation. Remember, always the heartbeat may not be in a regular interval. Sometimes alteration can be there. So that is called as arrhythmia or irregular heartbeat. And in this picture it is easy that how to check the rhythm of the heart rate. Again you have to consider successive R waves, adjacent R waves. So this is one R wave, this is another R wave, this is another R wave. Remember, the interval between adjacent R waves should be equal. Then you can consider that as a regular heart rate. And remember, if you note down the interval between successive R waves are extremely different, means there you can consider as irregular heart rate. You can check here. This is the lead 2 again. In the lead 2, here you have almost 15 small squares. Okay, again 15, again 15. What happened here? Here you have a delay. So here you have in between successive R waves, one you have 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, almost 28 small squares. And again in the next you have 5, 10, 15, 20, almost less than 25, 23. So this is telling you this heartbeat is not irregular, not regular. This is irregular. This is irregular heartbeat. So this is how you have to check for the rhythm. So we have covered all the easy steps to have a quick review of the ECG, and there we have considered the rate, okay, heart rate we have considered, and we know the morphology and characteristic features of the P wave. Then we consider the PR interval and its normal duration and its significance. Then we learned about the Q wave and its significance. Then we learned about the QRS complex, its duration and significance. Then we were learning about the QT interval. Okay, its normal value in male and female we have learned QT interval and its clinical significance. Then the next step was ST segment, its elevation and depression. What is J point? That's what we covered. Then we learned the T wave, its clinical significance. Then we learned how to calculate axis. Okay, right axis deviation and left axis deviation by considering the chest lead. The next step was to consider the rhythm by checking nearby or adjacent or successive R waves. And this is just a sample to work out what is your clinical diagnosis. I am giving you few seconds to diagnose. You can check all the leads, lead 1, 2, 3 and AVR, AVL and AVF plus 6 chest leads V1, V2, V3, V4, V5, V6. This is a case of anterior myocardial infarction. So to note down the anterior wall, you know the leads like V3 and V4 you can consider. So there is marked ST segment elevation in the V3 and V4. That is telling you the anterior wall infarction. This is another sample. Again you can check all the leads, lead 1, lead 2, lead 3, AVR, AVL, AVF and all the chest leads. This is a case of inferior wall MI because in the lead 2, lead 3 and AVF we got marked ST segment elevation. Again, this is a sample, and if you notice here in the V1 and V2 we got marked ST segment elevation. So this can be a case of septal myocardial infarction because V1 and V2 in the ventricular septum, V3, V4 anterior wall, V5, V6 left wall. So acute septal MI. Finally, you just check yourself whether this is a normal ECG or abnormal ECG. You should consider all the 10 steps, right beginning from the heart rate and right beginning from the P wave, PR interval, QRS complex. Again you have the QT interval, ST segment and T wave, and you check for the axis, and again you have to check for the rhythm. Everything you consider. If you consider everything, this will be a normal ECG.